Hello, my name is Martin, and this is the Indie Game of the Week, Banished, and thank you for watching. Ever dreamed of medieval times, guys? Knights and castles and saving princesses and all that good shit? Well, you ain't gonna be doing any of that in this game. Banished is a city-building medieval simulator. It released February 2014, and it was developed and published by Shining Rock Software. You can purchase Banished on Steam right now for $19.99. Now, before we get started here and I start talking about features and all that good stuff, Banished is a very complex game. I will try to talk about all the elements in the game, but I may miss some, and all I ask is that you don't cut my head off and put it on a spike. Banished's story is pretty simple and legit. You're a group of people who have been cast out into the wilderness to make their own way in the world. You control the town, its people, what they work on, what they get done, what they produce. If they fail, it's your fault. It's like Rob Stark says, being king is like having 1,000 children. You have to worry about the farmer as much as you worry about the tailor and the surrounding territories. What I'm trying to say is that the game is it makes you question every decision you're going to make, what the risks are of the decisions that you make, and it punishes you if you make the wrong decision. Let's get to the gameplay features. There's a whole myriad of options here, of course. Camera manipulation for auto save time features, all that good stuff. Your video, audio. The game we'll be mostly playing the game with your keyboard and mouse. There is, I guess you could say, kind of like hotkey features basically that allow you to access certain menus rather by pressing certain buttons. When you press new game, you'll be brought to this menu where you can create your town and kind of change the environment. Every environment is randomly generated. No one environment will be the same from game to game. You may find similar environments in a look, but for the most part, it'll try to give you a new map seed, as it were. You can just type in a new number or a number that you're kind of comfortable with, and it'll regenerate that map again. You also can manipulate the terrain type, the terrain size. Now, this is one thing that I have to say, that if you plan on playing this game, I would always suggest you either pick medium or large. Because the beautiful part about Banished, the goal of Banished, is to make a town that thrives and survives as long as possible. Now, you could say, hey, I want to make a small map, and kind of challenge yourself to kind of maximize the territories in its proficiency and its efficiency. I should say, not proficiency, its efficiency. But for the most part, you're always going to want to make a large map, so that way you have lots of resources to play with. You're going to also manipulate the climate and disasters. Now, there is quite a number of disasters, from fire, starvation, disease, hypothermia, rock falling on people, livestock having diseases. It just gets insane, the amount of disasters that can happen to your poor little town. So that's available to you if you want to turn that off. If you turn that off, I think you're a wuss, though. And of course, you have your starting conditions and kind of the overall difficulty of your game, going from hard, medium to easy. In general, I played on medium because I just picked up this game maybe about a week and a half ago, and I've had a lot of fun with it. I've been playing it for about 6 hours now. So I'm going to actually go ahead and load up a town that I have here, Martyrville, and I will try to get into explaining what decisions I've made and how my town kind of works, and also all overall features. I'm going to also try to, I'll explain all this to you here in a second here. This is right here, kind of on the top left here, what you really need to know about your town. It's early spring. It obviously displays your town name. I have 52 adults, 8 children in school, and 11 children in general. It also gives you information about the weather, how much of your things you have stocked, for instance, amount of stored logs, firewood. It gives you a general idea of how your town is doing overall in all. This is probably the most important panel, but to the bottom right of that is the manipulation and construction of things. Houses, roads, storage, markets, town services, food production. The game has a vast amount of things that you can construct in your town. So let me just show you what Martyrville is like right here. This is the heart of my town here. Every town should have a market at the center of it, which allows your citizens to go around and kind of collect the things that they need, as well as you employ all of your workers, which is what you're looking on the bottom left here, which is your professions. Everybody in this game has a job. All children almost have jobs. When they grow up to be about, I think, 13 or 14, they start working immediately, basically. And you can you can see there's a whole myriad of jobs here that they can do. My main export here in Martyrville is gatherers' huts. That's how I survive. This is how I feed my people. As you can see, I have 3,744 units of food, stored food. And that is by far one of the most important things in this game to know, is have food. But that isn't the only important thing. You need to have wood, which I am desperately lacking. Even though I have 3 freaking foresters' lodges and I'm surrounded by trees, I have a lack of wood, which I will probably go ahead and cut down some of these trees. But here's the thing about Banished and its beauty is, I'm going to go ahead and unpause the game here so that you can kind of see my workers. I'm going to slow the game time down here down to, we'll go 2. And you can start seeing my people kind of move about town and doing their jobs and tasks. One thing I really like about this game is that it's realistic in the fashion that it kind of works. If you butcher your entire forest around your village and then put down, let's say, a gatherer's hut or a hunter's lodge in the middle of your butchered forest, they're not going to gather shit. You need to have a forest there for them to accomplish their jobs. You need to balance your climate as well as your town. And I really enjoy that. If you farm a particular area too much, that area will grow spoiled, and then you will have to not be able to use that land, basically. Eventually, you will make mines, and if you mine out that mine, guess what? That mine is now made useless. You can deconstruct the building, but otherwise, it has no use. Same thing goes for stone quarries, which gather stone and other essential things you need to basically create your town and thrive as a people. Right now, I am desperately lacking in wood, so let me see if I can start gathering wood here. The game has a very complex system. It has a lot of different buildings, a lot of different things you can create, but it all presents that to you in kind of an easy, efficient way to learn. And also the tutorials in this game are fantastic. If you're planning on buying Banished, play the tutorials. It'll give you a rough estimate of everything you need to know. But also, like I said, the game is also very realistic. So let's say if you plant crops right before winter, you're going to lose all those crops. All of them. Immediately. You need to plan out your things in advance. If you plan on planting crops, make sure you plant them in early spring and then gather them before winter comes, because otherwise you're going to regret yourself. But the game also has a really nice a kind of a help feature here that kind of explains what each of the buildings do and how each of them works. And it really does a good job of explaining what they do and how they work. So anyways, like I said, I need to gather some firewood here, so I'm going to go ahead and butcher some trees, harvest trees. Now, because I have a forester's lodge up here, what I'm going to do actually, and you can actually kind of see what my forester's lodge is domain by that yellow line there. And what Forester's Lodge does basically is they replant trees. So all I have to do is just, well, I'm going to just butcher this top half of the forest. Unpause time. And for the sake of time, I'm actually going to speed up the clock here. And they will start cutting down the trees one by one. You can zoom in pretty far. I have to say, talk about the graphics here really quick. The graphics are really good, guys. I really enjoy them. The sounds are amazing. The music's good. It really does give you a genuine, authentic feel of a medieval village, as it were. Now you can hear them start shaking down the trees here. Pretty quickly, trees start falling, and they're going to start gathering wood here, which I will probably need for the coming winter because, well, in winter you don't want to be without firewood because your people will freeze to death and they will die. There's a problem here. What is this? The structure is being removed. Alright, yeah. At this point, the reason I'm removing this Forester's Lodge here is I'm actually trying to expand my town outwards. And I was planning on removing this Forester's Lodge and making kind of a new Martyrville 2.0 in this general region. Okay, cool. They started deconstructing that. So I'm actually going to go ahead and reconstruct that graveyard. That graveyard actually filled up there. Let's see if I can recreate it. Eventually, if you are good at the game, you will actually kind of, your people will thrive for quite. The cemetery is too small. Hold on, I guess it was 1 square bigger than it was originally. No. Is that right? That looks right to me. Alright. Your people will actually, if you're lucky and you do a good job of the game, your people will actually grow old and will die of old age, and eventually you'll have to make graveyards. Otherwise, your people's town and happiness will go down, and then all of your citizens will be unhappy, and they will not, I guess you could say, probably produce as efficiently as they can. I have a shitload of iron. Good lord. We are producing. Let's produce some more tools, man, because you have a buttload of iron just sitting there. There you go. So as you can imagine, the game just has a lot of complexities to it of creating a different myriad of products that you need to create. But how do you do that? Of course, is by creating different kinds of buildings and different kinds of professions, blacksmiths, herbalists, forest lodges. You get the kind of idea. You can also make taverns, which I have one right up here, creating ale from berries for my town. Because, like I said, the main export of my town is from gatherers. So you guys can kind of get an idea of how the game works in general, but there's far more complex issues involved when it comes to population control and things of that nature. The more you need to create more houses to create more space for more families to kind of be born and, you know, children to be created, as it were. I have one homeless dude. How are you homeless, sir? Alright, so let's see if I can make a house for this guy right here. And you can get kind of a quick idea of how it is to create things. I'm going to make it right there. And they'll start. I'm going to also increase the priority of that house by simply just doing that. And that should hopefully get them working on that house immediately. They're telling me that we're always out of firewood. We're always out of firewood. I know this. So they start creating the house, and you have to, of course, dictate workers to that job, laborers and builders. Everyone, like I said, has a role to play in this game. There's other things you can do in this game aside from creating just buildings. You can grow livestock. You can trade with people. You can grow, they're called vineyards, I think they're called. I'm not really sure what they're called. They're called orchids, I'm sorry. Orchids. And basically, that's kind of like a renewable source of food. And also, it's telling me that I'm out of logs, I'm out of firewood, and I'm out of logs again. I'm getting the impression I need logs. Like I said, there's a whole myriad of different ways to go about creating a town and how you go about it. Hopefully this will solve the homelessness problem. Did it? Did it solve that person's homelessness problem? Elliot moved in. Alright, he's a laborer and now a stone cutter. So you kind of get the idea. Like I said, you can just, there's a whole myriad of ways to create a town. Like I said, I haven't even touched maybe, looks like 1%, maybe 3% of this land. There's just so much territory for me to expand into. And it's good because if you're making a long game, you're going to be trying to grow a population of, 5,000. And that's where the game gets really hard because you have a lot of micromanagement going on. It just gets really, really difficult. I was in the middle of making that. Okay, hopefully that works, though. I don't know if this trading post is going to work because it's not directly connected to the river. There's like this little hump here. But I wanted to see what would happen anyways. Maybe it'll work out. I have no idea. Probably not. But I was going to test out and see if it worked out anyways. And that's one thing I have to say. One of the beautiful parts about this game is that there is a lot of experimentation. You will try something and it will work out, and if it doesn't, you learn from your mistakes and you move along. Let's see, this graveyard's empty, yay! Okay, cool, that worked out pretty well there. Originally I filled up this graveyard from my first generation of villagers dying, and now that I rebuilt it so that way the graves would be emptied out, but it wouldn't piss off the people at the same time. What are we out of? We're always out of logs. Logs. You guys are always bitching about logs. I have freaking so many foresters' lodges. What do you want me to do about it? Oh well. Well, we're going to butcher the forest around here anyways. So. No, not an orchid. I don't want an orchid. I want to butcher the forest. Okay, I don't want that close to my gatherers' lodges, though. It's really not at all that close to my forester's lodge. So we're actually just going to go ahead and butcher that entire forest. Winter has come here, which has not necessarily put me in a good position. I only have 40 pieces of firewood, which is bad because people are going to start getting cold here, and they may unfortunately die because I did not prioritize wood during the good part of the year, but at the same time, we'll see. I also have stone houses, which does prevent my people from freezing to death because stone houses have a little bit more of a better warmth generation, I guess you could say. I do have a shit ton of food. No one is starving. I probably, like I said, need to start expanding my town rather quickly here, and that was a project I am working on. But like I said, guys, the game is very realistic. You need to think kind of with a common sense when it comes to this game. You need to prioritize things. You're like, you know what? If I have a large export of food, I need to start creating more houses so my people can thrive. If I don't have as much food, I need to stop making houses and start producing more food sources, or at least looking into creating more food sources, as it were. And that's what I really like about Banished. It has a lot of detail, but it presents it in a way that it's not too complicated. Also, there's different kinds of logs that can kind of tell you what's going on in your town. For instance, I had a hunter die of old age, and then immediately a laborer replaced them. I also had Amar become a student, and that's another thing. You can kind of educate your people, which my school, I think, is right there. That's my school right there. 11 students. And if you click on your people, it actually gives you more in-depth information. Let's say on Roland here, for instance. He is 54 years old. His clothing is fair. And you can see that he's educated, he's happy, and somewhat healthy. For 4 hearts all in all, that's not bad. And his job is a hunter. And just like as you can see, it kind of gives you a lot of information, but in a very cool, easy to understand way. And I think that is what is the beauty of Banished, is that it is complicated, but not overwhelmingly complicated. There's a lot of things to learn, but you learn as you play it. And like I said, the game just is really, really neat. But thank God so far here in Marvel, no disasters are struck. No fires, no tornadoes, no earthquakes. God knows what else could have happened in this town. Do I have this forest getting ready to be butchered? I do now. Alright, there we go. So, like I said, you're going to learn from your mistakes. There is no war element in the game. You're just creating a town for the most part. There's like these nomads that show up that you can invite into your town, but the more higher the civilization you have, the more chances you have are for diseases kind of brewing up amongst the people. So you have the option to kind of turn away nomads. But like I said, there really isn't a war element here to this game. There really isn't a soldier's outpost or, you know, an army to raise up and then fight other kingdoms. It's more solely about your town's survival and how you deal with the economy of your resources and all of that good stuff. My port is being constructed here, which is fantastic. I hope this trading post works. I don't really know if it's going to because, like I said, it's not connected to the river, but I felt so, I don't know, I didn't feel right about connecting it all the way out there. I probably should have, and it's probably a mistake I will regret. But it may work out, who knows? This could count as being part of the river, and who knows, the boat may just simply go over that little hump of land there. I'm hoping it does anyways. I could be wrong. But like I said, the game just is very complex, guys. I've said that 100 times, and I really cannot say that enough. The game's a lot of fun here, guys. If you enjoy town simulators, if you enjoy somewhat really good, realistic reactions to things, and the controlling of the climate and how people intermingle and what things they need to survive, clothing and food and warmth and all that good stuff, this game will not let you down. I got this game one time and I literally was lost in it for 3 hours just setting up Martyrville here in its birth stages, and then growing it outwards, making a chapel for my people, which boosts their happiness. And like I said, again, the game is just really, really in-depth and neat. You may think the game is trying to work against you, but it does put things in hindsight of how much of a living nightmare it was to live, probably, you know, how it was to live in those days. It probably was worse than even this game puts forward, because if you do a good job, your villagers will die of old age, which is around the age of 70 or 80 in this game. And back then, that was extremely rare. Banished is a little bit more expensive than the average indie game, but you'll be playing this game for hours and hours, making hard decisions that may lead to your village flourishing or dying in ruin. It's fun, it's calm, it's smart. You have to think like a lord and you will succeed. And remember what Spock said, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. So thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe, like, and share for more future videos. I hope you enjoyed this review. And this has been the Indie Game of the Week, Banished.